Y'all, so many of the problems we are fighting over in this country right now could leave a heaping pile of you-know-what in the laps of young people. Are folks going to leave us with an unlivable planet? Can college really be affordable? Will young people in America be left with no right to make a decision about their own bodies, particularly young women? Here on Simone, we're going to go outside of the Beltway to ask these young folks themselves. We're talking to the people who could feel the pain and sway the vote this midterm. So let's welcome this outstanding group of Gen Z and millennial voters. I've got 23-year-old law student Asha Sheikh from New Jersey, 26-year-old voting rights activist Charlie Bonner of Texas, and 35-year-old digital organizer Enchanta Jackson of Maryland. Greetings to you all, my friends. I'm very excited about this because people always talk about the young people, but nobody's asking us. So I am here to ask you. So I want to start with this big problem. The overturning of Roe v. Wade, as we all know, it has really rocked the country. But take a look at this. The Washington Post is saying that 65% of Americans say the Supreme Court decision was a major loss of rights, but only 62% of Democrats say they're going to vote in the midterm elections. So, show of hands, folks, how many of y'all here plan to vote? Okay, all of our hands are up. Enchanta, I don't know, okay, because I didn't see Enchanta's hand now. Okay, so show of hands, how many of you know someone who says they are not voting? You all shook your head. Enchanta, you raised your hand. I want to start with you. Why, whoever told you that they weren't voting, why did they say that they're not?
It's interesting. A lot of people that I speak with don't even know we have an election coming up. So a lot of folks might not even know who's running, what offices are running right now. But in addition to that, a lot of people have just lost interest in politics. Maybe they got the spark during the Obama campaign, but with the recent antics, they're just no longer interested in even engaging.
Wow. Asha, you also shook your head. Why have folks told you that they're not going to vote?
Yeah, I think pretty similarly, as Enchanta said, there are some people who just don't realize that there is this election coming up. And then I think another big part of it is not feeling like their vote matters, that even though we did go out and vote in 2020, there's still so many issues that people feel like haven't made any progress. And so it's kind of a sense of what's the point?
Okay, so let's talk about the issues then, because I have heard similar things as you all have. And Charlie, I'm going to start with you. What is the most important issue, or give me your top 2 important issues this cycle that you want to hear candidates talking about?
Unfortunately, there are a lot of issues happening right now in Texas.
What's your top 2, Charlie? What's your top 2?
For me, it's got to be voting rights right now, because if we do not have equitable access to the ballot, we can't hold these folks accountable. And that's what we see happening in Texas right now. We have folks elected who are so sure of their power, so sure that they have fortified the votes in their favor, that they have no interest in actually representing the people who live here. If they did, they'd do something about the energy grid, which would also be very up there in our top issues in Texas.
Asha, top issue.
Oh, top single issue?
Give me your top 2.
Okay. That is also very hard, but I would say right now, climate change and reproductive rights.
Enchanta, top 2 issues.
That's as that relates to racial injustice and marginalized groups.
Perfect. Enchanta,
honestly,
top 2.
I definitely agree with that broad stroke. Of course, racial justice, gender equity, but the Black maternal health crisis is huge on my mind as a 35-year-old. So I definitely am interested in family planning, but it seems like I can't even make a decision with all the uncertainty.
So you all are, I would like to say, very engaged voters. Some of you all are organizers. Y'all are paying attention. But each of you know somebody that says they're not voting. And so I am wondering where the disconnect is. And what do you think folks need to do to get people engaged? It is very striking to me to hear that people don't know an election is happening. It's somewhere like Maryland where ads have been run, or Texas where y'all are in the news every day. So what do y'all think folks need to hear? Charlie, I'm going to start with you.
You know, so many young people that we talk to in our generation are feeling a real sense of hopelessness. And I think this is happening across the country, but particularly across the South and in states like Texas, where we can't keep the lights on. This is really ground zero in the fights for abortion access, for the freedom to vote, and these really troubling attacks that we see on trans kids and the LGBTQIA community. It gives this feeling that nobody is here to save us, that nobody is going to come to our rescue. And I think it's about time we remind ourselves that we are the cavalry. No one is coming to save us but ourselves. And that is why it is so critical that our generation is showing up this election.
Enchanta, you are like, yes, we are the cavalry. Is that what young people in our generation need to hear?
I definitely think so. A lot of people have lost hope. I've been engaged in politics for a long time, and I would be lying if I said I was as hopeful as I used to be. But I really do believe that a lot of politicians need to show that they're movable, that when their base is saying they want this or want that, or they're not aligning with how they're voting, they will move to represent the people in the community that are speaking up. And it just doesn't seem like it's the case anymore. People are too connected to their party, too loyal, especially the Republican Party, too loyal to what their party wants versus what their people want.
Asha, you're going to get the last word on this. What's your take?
Yeah, I think it's hard when we've seen so many steps backward on so many issues. But I think it comes down to triage. Even though, voting is just one thing, it's an important thing, but obviously there's so much work, so much organizing that happens outside of just voting. But voting is one step, and I think it is really important as a triage step, and thinking about, yes, these past 2 years may not have been exactly in all of what we wanted, but how much worse it would be if we had more Republicans, more Trump Republicans in power rather than Democrats.
Voting is one but very important, critical, crucial tool in our toolbox of social justice. Charlie, Enchanta, Asha, thank y'all so much. We will be checking in with young voters throughout the course of this midterm election. Appreciate you guys.